is where you will eventually shine. Or see, Min Kwang Le, the wound, where pain begins. You don't choose your wounds. They arrive without warning, through heartbreak, betrayal, loss, humiliation, failure, or the silent collapse of something you once believed would last. Some wounds begin quietly. A harsh word you pretended not to care about. A disappointment you swallowed because you didn't know where else to put it. A moment when life asked you to be strong, but you were already breaking. Other wounds tear through you like a storm. They rearrange everything. They pull the ground from beneath your feet. They leave you staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering how a life you fought so hard to build could still fall apart. Pain has a strange way of arriving when you feel least prepared. But pain is not a punishment. Pain is a process. A process that forces you to confront what you've avoided. A process that strips away illusions. A process that cracks you open so light can enter. History's greatest figures all began with wounds. Abraham Lincoln carried the wound of repeated failure, business failures, political defeats, the death of his beloved, and depression so deep his friends feared for his life. Yet from that wound emerged unparalleled empathy and leadership. Joan of Arc carried the wound of isolation, a teenage girl mocked and doubted by those she fought to defend. Her wound became a fire no army could extinguish. Leonardo da Vinci carried the wound of illegitimacy, excluded from formal education, seen as lesser. Yet his wound drove him to self-teach everything, becoming a universal genius whose work still breathes through time. Wounds do not prove weakness. Wounds prove humanity. They break the surface of who you think you are and reveal the depth of who you could become. There are wounds that belong to a single moment, and wounds that belong to an entire chapter of your life. Some come from childhood, a parent's silence, a broken promise, a moment you realized the world wasn't as safe as you believed. Others arrive later, the collapse of identity, the loss of direction, the ending of a dream you once held tightly. These wounds don't scream, they whisper. And sometimes those whispers shape us more than the loudest pain, like Vincent van Gogh, whose wound of loneliness echoed through every stroke of his brush. He turned isolation into art that continues to speak across centuries. Or Emily Dickinson, who rarely left her home. Yet her inner wounds blossomed into poetry that reshaped American literature. Pain enters your life not to destroy it, but to rearrange it. And in that rearrangement, you begin to see yourself with sharper eyes. This is the beginning of wisdom, the fire, where the soul transforms. There comes a moment when you stop running. You stop distracting yourself. You stop hiding inside routine. You stop numbing your feelings with noise. And finally, you sit with your pain. This moment is terrifying because facing your wound means facing the parts of yourself you tried to bury. But sitting with your pain is the beginning of transformation. It is here, inside the fire, that you begin to change. Where some people break, you choose to awaken. Where some collapse, you choose to rise. Where some repeat the cycle, you choose to rewrite it. Pain becomes your teacher. It teaches you that real strength is not armor. Real strength is honesty. Real strength is vulnerability. Real strength is being brave enough to feel. It teaches you boundaries, self-worth, who deserves your energy and who no longer does. It teaches you that healing is not forgetting. Healing is understanding. History is full of people transformed by fire. Socrates, condemned by his own city, drank poison rather than betray his principles. His wound became the birthplace of Western philosophy. Helen Keller, trapped in darkness and silence, walked through a fire no one could imagine. From that fire, she emerged with a wisdom that still inspires the world. She once wrote, "Although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of the overcoming of it." Frederick Douglass, born into slavery, carried the wounds of a life denied. Yet from the fire of oppression came one of the strongest voices for freedom in history. He declared, "Without struggle, there is no progress." The fire reshapes you, not by destroying you, but by melting away the illusions you cling to. You begin asking deeper questions. What life aligns with my soul? What truths have I ignored? What version of myself am I meant to grow into now? The fire strips away the unnecessary and leaves only what is essential. Look at Mahatma Gandhi. His fire came through humiliation, injustice, imprisonment. But he refined that fire into clarity and conviction, turning pain into a movement of peace. Look at Florence Nightingale, drawn by a spiritual wound into war zones of unimaginable suffering. From that fire, she forged the foundations of global healthcare. Transformation is never gentle. It is the cracking of an old shell. It is the burning away of the outdated. It is the forging of a deeper self. Inside the fire, you learn the truth. Wisdom does not come from winning. Wisdom comes from healing. The wisdom. Rising above your wound, one day without noticing, you wake up different. Your breath feels lighter. The memories that once hurt now feel distant. What once shattered you now strengthens you. What once triggered you now teaches you. This is how wisdom arrives quietly, slowly, steadily. You begin to see patterns, that nothing was wasted, that nothing was meaningless, that pain was preparing you for depth, for compassion, for clarity, for purpose. You start understanding what all great souls eventually understood. Wounds shape destiny. Look at Buddha. His journey toward enlightenment began with the wound of encountering human suffering. His wisdom didn't come from comfort, but from seeing the fragile truth of life. Look at Marcus Aurelius, who endured plague, betrayal, war, and loss. His stoic insights and meditations were carved not from triumph, but from long nights of reflection inside pain. Look at Harriet Tubman, whose life was marked by brutality and injury, yet she turned her wounds into a compass that led others toward freedom. Look at Frida Kahlo, living with chronic pain after a horrific accident. Yet she painted her suffering into colors no one had seen before. Her art became the language of endurance. Look at Beethoven, who lost his hearing yet composed the Ninth Symphony, one of humanity's greatest masterpieces. His wound did not silence him, it liberated him. Wisdom is not knowledge. Wisdom is transformation. It is the moment you realize you were not being punished. You were being prepared. People who hurt you were acting from their own wounds, and you are free to release them. Losing something was necessary because it created space for what truly belonged. Your past was not a failure. It was a foundation. Wisdom is the understanding that your scars are not signs of what broke you. They are signs of what rebuilt you. You carry them now not with shame, but with strength. Your scars glow because they tell the story of how you walked through darkness and came out shining. You are no longer the person you were. You are deeper, clearer, softer, yet stronger, compassionate, yet discerning, peaceful, yet powerful. Your wounds have become your wings. And now you rise. The scar that once hurt you is now the place where your light escapes. See, Min Kwang Le.